No way this just happened. The Bears wrapped up their first game of the year against the Minnesota Vikings, and it went about as planned. Welcome to Bears Digest, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Dylan Guinzy. Thank you for joining me once again. It looks like 67.5% of you have not subscribed, so if you have not done so, please hit that button so you can stay up to date on news, rumors, breaking information as it comes to us. So, ladies and gentlemen, week one is over. Bears lose to the Minnesota Vikings in week one, 27-24. Now, the game just got over. Wanted to get this video out to everybody, wanted to discuss it, talk about it, break it down. Obviously, everybody's heated right now, including myself, but I can't say that we didn't expect this outcome from this game. There's simply just no way that happened where they blew that game up 17-6 going into the fourth quarter. So we're going to discuss this. We're going to break everything down, what went wrong, what went right, if anything, and we'll get on to it from there. So starting here with the final score, Minnesota 27, Chicago 24. Bears entered the fourth quarter with a 17-6 lead. 21 points scored in the fourth quarter for the Minnesota Vikings. Absolutely unacceptable. The defense was worn out. They were tired. Nothing was going in the right direction for this team. We saw once they scored that second touchdown there, you kind of knew it was over. And that's, sad to say as a Bears fan, but it's happened year over year, time and time again. This happens every single year. Now, were we expecting this? Yeah, I think you could say so before the game. But when you have a win in your grips, especially in the division against a rookie quarterback in his first start, at home in prime time, you have to take it. And this was the same old Bears. I don't care if Ben's coaching it. I don't care who's coaching it. All the players played the same as they usually do. And the outcome was the same as well. So Bears lose 27-24. Let me know down below what you guys think about this game, the outcome, what went wrong, what went right, if you think anything did go right with this game. If you're watching just the first half, you could probably say so. But going from there, second half was absolutely abysmal. It was one of the worst halves I've ever seen, and that's coming from a Bears fan. As we know, there's a lot of terrible halves that we have to go through as Bears fans. So getting on to the box score, just kind of going through some stats here. J.J. McCarthy obviously started terribly. He was seeing ghosts the majority of the game until the fourth quarter. So an epic collapse on the Bears' end there. 13 of 20, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 143 yards passing. He had that pick six. Once that moment hit, that's when you should completely put their nose into the dirt, and they should never see the light of day again as a football team that day, right? So tonight they should have been done after that was 17-6 and after the Nahshon Wright pick six. Should be done. They should not live to see another down for the rest of the day, and that just shows that the cowardly coaching style still arises with this team. The mistakes still arise with this team, and they don't know how to win football games. Still the same thing there. Obviously, it's a long season. We'll see how they kind of bounce back from that and everything going forward. Passing yards on the Bears side, we had Caleb at 210, 21 of 35, 1 touchdown there, 58 yards on the ground, and a touchdown on the ground as well. DJ Moore had 3 catches for 68 yards. Was injured, a little bit banged up there at the end. Nothing was going right in the passing game in the second half at all. If you looked at just the first half stats, again, the Bears were the better team by a million miles. But of course, the game is 4 quarters for a reason, and they didn't play that many quarters. They played about 2. I would say maybe 2 1/3 after that pick six there in the third quarter with 12 minutes remaining. And that was the final play that they put any sort of effort out there or any sort of valiant attempt to win that football game. So kind of going down the list here again, DeAndre Swift was one of the keys to the game, in my opinion, the other day in that prediction video that I had set. And Caleb Williams was also the second key to the game in his connection with Ben Johnson. If you watched the first drive, it was absolutely spectacular. It was a great scripted drive. Everything went well according to plan. And ever since that moment, it was absolutely horrific, as we've seen in the past. The Bears scored their first opening drive touchdown since 2023. They didn't score any last year, and everything was going well. They had 2 straight 3-and-outs against J.J. McCarthy. He looked absolutely nowhere to be found, as you can imagine, as a rookie quarterback. Caleb looked the same way last year. What's the difference between last year and this year's game? Caleb looked the same after that first drive. And last year, they were able to win that game ugly because it was against a horrific ball club. This one is not. Minnesota is not a horrific ball club. They have great players. Great players win games. Great coaching wins games. And J.J. McCarthy outplayed Caleb in every aspect there in the fourth quarter today. And that's kind of in a tribute to Kevin O'Connell. Like I said, Kevin O'Connell is not a guy that, players just play bad under. He elevates everybody else with his play calling, with his decision making, everything like that. He stays composed, and that trickles down to the quarterback and the rest of their players. So they're going to be a good team per usual, but we needed to win that game to not go over in the division this year. I think we're going to stay at that mark, maybe sneak one at the end of the season there, but it looks like another 1-5 finish in the NFC North for the Bears. Of course, it's a long season. I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves here. But of course, that's really the only thing you can do at this point in time. You got to live in the moment. And as we're speaking right now, this is a half hour after the game finished up. So as of right now, this team is no different than last year. I had 7 wins on the docket. If we're looking at it right now, if these things don't improve and they can't close out close games or close out games at all when they're ahead 2 possessions, they're not winning more than 5. So things have to change massively. The good thing is they have time to fix that. In my opinion, I trust Ben Johnson. There was open throws here. There was open receivers. Overall, I think there were some questionable decisions, things like that, of course. But it is a divisional game and a divisional matchup. Things do get weird. So you never really know what's going to occur in those games. But overall, I thought Ben, was fine. And you could tell he was visibly pissed off at everything that was going on. And I don't know how mad you could possibly get at this team after a game like this and have them actually respond to it. Caleb played horrific today. So I don't know what Ben needs to do there to, take him under his wing, take him into his office, whatever it is. Probably one-on-one conversations is best rather than calling him out in front of the team at this point. But that was horrific in the second half. He played great in the first half. He was making things happen. The pressure was getting home for Minnesota, but he was escaping and evading and doing his playmaking, Superman sort of stuff that he usually does. And then we get into the second half. You sort of saw some of the same things that we saw last year. He was a little bit flustered, missing his reads, missing throws high, things like that. So, as always, Bears imploded in the second half, and it was a tragic loss there for Chicago. Bears had a 94.2% win probability with 134 to go in the third quarter. Tweet by Bill Zimmerman there. We've seen this movie many times before. It happened about 3 or 4 times last year as well. This is the same team. Guys, nothing is different. Nothing is different right now unless things dramatically change. They can't close out games, and they don't know how to win games either. And this showed, again, by that win percentage probability there. You have a rookie quarterback that you're going against. You should absolutely shove him in the dirt, and he shouldn't have any chance of coming back into that game when he's behind. Now, if Minnesota got ahead early and they were up, and it was the Bears fighting from behind, I could understand it more. That they did lose, that's kind of what I expected. I expected it to be a 23-17 Vikings win, as I said in that video the other day. I expected that. I expected them to get up quick, but it was the other way around, and the Bears still imploded. So that's more, kind of disheartening as a fan there to see that in the way that went. Going over to the team stats here, Bears won pretty much everything. In the team stat category, had more yards, less sacks taken. Third down efficiency was the same, though, but they started about, I think, 2 for 3 and went absolutely nowhere after that, of course. They had 63 total plays, 14 more than the Vikings, 317 yards to 254. Again, a team scoring 27 points with 254 total yards is an absolute tragedy. We'll move on from that as we go here. Total drives, it was tied up. They ended up getting a bunch more in the second half. I don't know the exact number on that one, but they got a bunch more, had advantage in the field position game, everything like that, and they went after us when they needed to. The last thing here that we want to touch on, is the penalties and some more regarding that. 11 penalties for 122 yards for the Bears. I think it was more than that, obviously, if you stack onto that last drive there. That's absolutely abysmal. That shows no sign of discipline. Darnell Wright was completely lost out there all night, was false starting left and right, had a holding call. Wasn't really a holding call, but whatever, still a penalty on him. I think that was 3 or 4 penalties on him. And then going from there, we had penalties all over the field. The refs were atrocious as well, but it comes to a point where you can't blame the refs, especially when you're up 2 possessions in the game. You have to close that out. There's no excuse. The refs weren't good, but they usually aren't, right? That's the story of the NFL, unless you're some teams that just kind of get calls. For the majority of the NFL, refs are not good, and they're going to make mistakes every single game, and that's something that you have to live with as a team and overcome as a team. And that adversity is something that the Bears have really never overcome and continued to do so this evening. So the last thing here, again, just what I want to reiterate is the point total. 24 points should have been enough. Can't give up 27 to a guy making his first start, throwing for only 143 yards. That tweet was from Ben Devine. I thought this was kind of right nail on the head for what we were speaking of here in this game. When they have less than 260 total yards, their quarterback was seeing complete ghosts for the majority of the football game, all the way down to the fourth quarter pretty much. Those games need to be won. And this feels like a game that immediately after you lose this one, this is going to trend into next week. It is a short week, and you're going to be playing a pissed off Lions team, and they're going to beat the absolute brakes off of Chicago next week. There is no surprise. There is no sort of different thoughts that you could really have about that. They're going to start 0-2. The Bears are. And this is just how the season is going to go once again. Now, if there's any positive with this, I thought that Ben was able to rein Caleb in at the beginning of the game, and his scripted plays were money. They did score their first opening drive TD in a long time, and I think Ben has this team where he wants it, and I have trust in him going forward. Whatever he needs to do with this team to give them the best chance to win on the field, that's what he's got to do. Obviously, Caleb's not going to miss those throws that he had tonight when he was just kind of missing high, maybe just missed a read here and there. That's not going to happen every time, especially when you're playing more vanilla defenses or non-top 3 defenses in the league in Brian Flores' unit in Minnesota, especially when he's playing these even the Lions. It'll probably look better in the passing game, but it'll look worse on defense inevitably for the majority of the game next week on Sunday. But the offense just was a complete dud after that first drive. And I think Caleb had a lot to do with that. And obviously the running game couldn't get it going either, so the Vikings just ended up blitzing and then staying in coverage. They knew there was no running lanes that were going to be open. Again, we mentioned this time and time again. If you had faith in DeAndre Swift and Kyle Monangai coming into this season, you were absolutely mistaken. And again, you're just like Ryan Poles, where you overrate the players that are on the team. You can't do that. They're not good. DeAndre had a couple of nice plays, but again, I said that him and Caleb were the keys to this game to win. They both played horrifically for the majority of it. I'm not going to blame Swift too much. He did miss quite a few holes that were evident on about 3 or 4 carries, and he did have a couple nice carries there towards the end of the game when they did need them. But overall, the blocking scheme on the O-line was horrific. He missed some, and I think he had one where he kind of lowered his shoulder. That was a good play, but he's not a power back or a guy that's going to fall forward very much, and that kind of rang true this evening. So the running game's horrible. If the running game's not going to get going, you can't really blame Caleb too much when they're just dropping into coverage with all pros everywhere. You're not really going to have success throwing the ball. However, he did miss quite a few throws. I expect that to get cleaned up. I think he's going to pull the trigger a lot more here as we go. He's going to be a little bit less, jittery or rusty as the season goes on. Of course, he's going to make more of those throws that Ben is looking for, and that's why I do trust Ben. There was plays open, there was plays left out there on the field, but overall, you have to close out a game and you have to win that game. And you have to start 1-0 on the season there, especially in the division. That was probably the easiest one that you were going to get. That was the toss-up that you could have to start the season and start Ben Johnson's coaching career, but you didn't get it. So we'll regroup. We'll be back here as soon as possible with some more updates and videos and coverage as we get moving forward into next week and week 2. But again, No way that happened once again for the Bears. Blown lead, multiple possession lead, everything going their way, and they choked it once again. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me once again. Hope to have more better news and better videos as we go forward. We need to get that defense back. Not having Jaylon Johnson, Kyler Gordon, and TJ Edwards was obviously going to end up in terrible news regardless for this defense. You can't really overcome that for a full game. So, again, we'll be back here as we get on to the week. Thank you guys for joining me once again. And as always, bear down.